Welcome to the One Step Ahead series, part storytelling, part podcast, and entirely a celebration. This project is a way to honor the wise beings and medicines that serve us in creating a life that is aligned with the unique beings we are, and the values that connect us to ourselves, to others, to our precious planet, and energies in the universe. You're invited to share in the intimate conversations that arise when we ponder and explore the questions: what does living in alignment feel like? What does it look like? How do we find our way, and who are the guides that can help us discover and deepen our understanding of ourselves? If you're a curious seeker, if you've known that something about your circumstances is not quite the right fit and wondered, what else is there? This is a place to open, expand, and explore. One step ahead of our past, of where we've been, one step closer to where we want to be, where we're meant to be, finding alignment. Always, still, putting one foot in front of the other. Good morning, beauties. To my lovely guest, Rachel Mark, and my incredible co-host, as always, Sabrina, and hello to all of our viewers and watchers. It is an early, snowy, cold morning in Victoria. So we've just been chatting a little bit about how very wintry winter is feeling. And for those of us on the West Coast, we are, well, we're not as accustomed to the snow and cold, and so when it comes, we really maximize it. Sabrina, I would love if you would warm us up by retelling the story of soccer practice yesterday, because that is such a quintessential winter day.
It was, yeah. My son normally has soccer practice on Wednesday evenings, and so the coach sent a message out to the group saying, I'm going to babysit your kids, just drop them at the field and we're going to go tobogganing. So we actually all showed up, all the parents, all the kids, the whole team was there, and we get to turn on the field lights, and there was big fluffy snowflakes falling down. I even captured a video just trying to capture the magic of it, and just stood there and watched for so long. It was so beautiful. And of course the kids, they're in a whole other world. They had so much fun.
Best soccer practice ever.
Best soccer practice ever, yes. And there was a soccer ball, but you didn't get really utilized a lot.
Oh, fair enough. Our poor Molly dog was out in our snowy backyard. We forgot to put the ball away, and so it's going to be a happy discovery when the snow melts.
So fun. Yeah. She won't go digging through it to find it?
No. Okay. I don't think her snoot is so great when it comes to picking out her own toys. They're really good. She's got a good snoot when she's buried a cookie, but if it's a buried toy, it just stays in the snow. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, food priority for the pups.
Yes, and all three of us actually have pups. Mine loves the snow until it gets too cold. And then she might, we had to carry her home a couple of times, just the last little bit, because it got a little too cold. How's it been for your dogs?
Yeah, Spencer loves it. I mean, he's only 18 months, so it's like just this total exploration and playing and just sort of like running. And it's really funny because, the sidewalks are kind of icy. So I'm like walking and kind of bracing myself. And then he's just like trying to gallop ahead because he's so excited. So it's very sweet to watch.
What kind of dog is Spencer?
Spencer's a golden retriever.
I have a golden retriever also he's to be 15 months this month. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're so great, but what a handful.
Champ is not. I got some sort of miracle dog. I mean, I manifested it, of course. He is the calmest golden retriever you'll ever meet. Wow. He gets rambunctious. I can see him on the couch. He's passed out. I let him run with the kids tobogganing yesterday. So he ran for an hour and 15 minutes nonstop. He did not stop. And now he's tired. But no, some golden retrievers are these crazy dopey dogs that are so hard to handle. And this dog, I swear, has lived many lifetimes. We think he might be literally my dad reincarnated. So he just listens.
That's very sweet.
No.
That's very sweet. I should say, I mean,
Yeah.
Spencer is calmer than some of the other Goldens that we have had before. So
Okay.
there's a wisdom to him. I think he kind of sits and watches. He's very observant, which is also very sweet.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't stop him from being silly. He like goes onto the deck and immediately flops down and starts rolling in the snow and barks at my other dog to bring the toy to him, even though she's like, I don't speak this language, dude. I don't have hands.
Oh my
Oh, they're
gosh, that's so
so
funny.
cute.
Yeah,
My
it's lots of fun.
little Molly looks like a mini golden. But all
She
of her
does.
dogs are red. Yeah, like that reddy strawberry blonde. Yeah, so
Yeah.
our loves. I thought it was suitable for us to chat a little bit about our pups in the snow because our pups in the snow are good medicine. And Rachel is here to help share a little bit more information about the good medicine that she shares in the world. Share is my word for the day. That's all right. Could be worse word. Thank you, Rach, for joining us. I actually put out the invitation, I think, to Rachel last spring, early last summer. It was way back in 2024. And I really wanted to include Rachel in the One Step Ahead series because of her magic and her medicine. Rachel is an acupuncturist, but she's a somatic coach and practitioner who works both in her integrative clinic that she owns and operates actually with her business partner over there. She's also partnered with the lovely Meg, who some of you will remember from an earlier episode. And I have had the privilege of learning with Rachel I did the healing point with Rachel back in 2023, I think it was. And then from there I moved into becoming one of her acupuncture patients. And for me, that's really where the magic happened. And when I say the magic happened is really, really cool. And I can't describe it, which is, I actually jotted down question, Rach, because I'm hoping that maybe you can expand a little bit to help not just me understand, but the folks who are watching. I think a lot of people roll into acupuncture and they have certain specific things that they're working on. But one of the beautiful parts of Rachel's practice is a holistic approach. And so I arrived in the office saying, basically, I feel sick and tired, and I'm very unhappy and anxious most of the time. For me, energetically, I was feeling a lot of constriction in my middle, like my whole torso. And I had a little bit of experience in the past with acupuncture where I couldn't articulate exactly what had changed, but there was a significant energetic shift where there was just a softening, a greater degree of comfort being in my own body. And so we did a number of sessions, fairly close succession when we did that first round. I think it was like once a week, once every couple of weeks over a period of I think 4 or 5 sessions. And the magic for me was experiencing a sense of heart opening. And for as long as I can remember, my heart, I knew it was soft and squishy and beautiful on the inside, but it was really ensconced in a very thick, rock hard shell of protection. And I kind of almost feel like I arrived here with that. I don't think that's the case. I think it just got tighter and tighter and tighter over time. And I can remember leaving, I think it was around the fourth session, and I had felt the softening as I was lying on the table. So, for anybody who hasn't had acupuncture, you might have heard a little bit about it. I'm hoping, Rach, would you just tell us a little bit about how acupuncture works? And then I'd like us to loop around to the role of acupuncture in your life, your path as a practitioner, and your own journey of figuring out alignment, finding your way, following that, and ultimately really showing up in the world to serve others to help do the same kind of work in their own life.
Thank you. And thanks for being so open and sharing about your experience with acupuncture, because I think it is something that, can inspire others to consider other ways, different ways that perhaps they haven't tried before. And, for me, acupuncture was something that was introduced to me at a pretty young age as a teenager. And I was always sort of fascinated with it. Like, what is happening? And the trajectory of my life was that it took me quite a while to circle back to deciding it was something that I wanted to study. Well, you asked me like 7 questions in one.
I did. I know. I've got to be one of the most terrible hosts in the world because I talk so much and I ask all the questions, not necessarily in a logical order or sequence, which is part of why Sabrina's here, is because she helps sort things out. So, first, a little bit brief, and this is probably terribly unfair. In a nutshell, how does acupuncture work?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How acupuncture.
Actually, can you start with what is acupuncture?
Oh, that's even better.
For
Yeah,
sure.
if you didn't know what acupuncture was, you might want that as your foundation.
Yeah, so acupuncture is one modality that's under the umbrella of traditional Chinese medicine. So there are ancient forms of medicine that have been around for thousands of years. Traditional Chinese medicine, TCM being one of them, Ayurveda being another. These are probably the 2 most common that we hear about and have come into practice more readily. And the premise of traditional Chinese medicine is really around the relationship of ourselves as individuals with the energy around us. So recognizing that we don't, as humans, live in isolation. I am affected by the relationships, the conversations that I have. Different emotions are going to create and elicit different physiological effects for me. How I feel in different seasons will probably change. And that this is all really about finding, the ultimate goal is about finding harmony and balance within us and with us in relation to what's happening around us. And so there are a lot of different sort of foundational theories that traditional Chinese medicine is based on. One is on the understanding of what's called qi, which is energy. And we can use this word to, I imagine that the people who are watching this are probably somewhat open to this idea of energy. And there are many different ways that we can think about energy. So energy can be thought of that really like esoteric, people always say like the woo, the unseeable, but okay, it's there. And then we can see on the other side, when we measure this from like a Western physiological scientific method perspective, that there is energy in our body. Every atom, every cell in our body is made up energetically of essentially electromagnetic fields. So we hear about like the protons and the electrons and the neutrons that we learned about in like high school science. And those are essentially emitting an electromagnetic field. And what we know now, both from a TCM perspective, but also from a Western physiological perspective, is that we as individuals carry electromagnetic fields. And that electromagnetic field interacts with those fields of the people and things that we are exposed to, that we are surrounding ourselves with. And so they can change and adjust. And so acupuncture is one tool that can be used to adjust that electromagnetic field by adjusting that energy. And so inserting a very, very, very small needle into the body in certain points is going to change the electromagnetic field that's in that area of the body and ultimately help to adjust that flow of energy through the body. So that's sort of the foundation of what acupuncture does. Traditional Chinese medicine uses what's called a meridian theory, which is the idea that we have lines or sort of transportation networks of that energy in our bodies. And in TCM, those meridians line up and are associated with the different organ systems. So we have this whole map on our body, which means that, as an example, Sheena, you're talking about feeling like a real opening in your heart space, in your chest. You know, we weren't doing a lot of needling right in that area, right? We were using other points on the body that elicit an effect through that area. So it makes it a really magical, if I might say, treatment to be able to support people in a number of different ways. And that's why you see acupuncture clinics, you know, similar to the way I practice, where you're in like a private room, similar to like if you're going for a massage, you're in a treatment room, you're laying down. But then we also have things like community style acupuncture, which is a tremendous way to be able to access something like acupuncture in a way that tends to have a lower price point, so it's more accessible for people, and it really only uses points that are from like the elbows down and the knees down, but can treat pretty much everything that could be going on for someone. So that meridian system makes it a really beautiful way to be able to connect with different parts of the body.
Oh, what a great description. Thank you so much. And thanks, Sabrina, for asking. Sabrina, have you had acupuncture? Have you
Oh,
experienced this
yes.
magic?
Yes. I think I first used acupuncture when I was struggling with plum pit throat. And it was very early on in my days of learning about the body and this intuitive knowing that there was something more than I was understanding at the time. And when the individual I was seeing perform the acupuncture on me, it triggered an emotional release that I was not quite prepared for. And it helped me to recognize that there was a lot that I was holding in and I needed to find a way to let it go. I watched a lot of sad movies after that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not uncommon to have that some sort of emotional release, because emotions are energy that are moving in the body in a specific way or not moving.
Yeah. And I just thought I was sick all the time. I would be like, my throat hurts. I think I'm getting sick. And my friend was like, Sabrina, you can't possibly like every week think you're getting strep throat. There's something going on. And I can't remember who it was that recommended I go see an acupuncturist, but I went and now I'm very aware. It still shows up once in a while. And I'm aware that I'm not getting sick, but I do need to release something.
Could you please explain plum pit throat just a little bit?
Oh yeah, it's that feeling you get when you're holding back tears, you know, where it's like it's painful in your neck and you just are choking it down. You're like, nope. And I believe they call it plum pit throat because it feels like you've got a plum pit just stuck right there that you keep swallowing, but it's not going away and it just fucking hurts. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I have a hunch a number of us can relate to that. It's interesting you mentioned that. Total sidetrack. Even still, I would encourage folks who are like, I think I know what that feels like, to pay attention for the next time it comes up. Because I have a hunch might be like, oh, I don't think I've ever had that. But then the next time you're watching a sad movie with someone beside you, you might get a little bit of that instead of letting your tears flow. That's usually when it comes up for me. That or really sappy commercials, in which case but it's a beautiful example of how the body manifests something that needs to be tended to, right? And we can feel that we're almost hurting ourselves by not expressing.
Yeah.
But that expression, oh, it takes courage.
Mhm, mhm. And you
Yeah.
can see the alignment of so many different, there's so many different ways to describe that, right? So from like an Western anatomical perspective, that's like your voice box is right there, right?
Yep.
So that's like about expression. In the chakra system, your throat chakra, all about speaking, right? And and so it's like there is alignment in all of these different perspectives. It's just different language that we use.
I know, Rach, that being an acupuncturist and owning an integrative clinic was not the dream of Rach as a little one. That wasn't the be all and end all for you. And like so many of our guests, you found your way to doing what you do by finding your way to what you needed as you were growing and healing. And could you please share a little bit around how the work that you're doing now helps you stay in alignment with the path that you feel is the true path that is meant for you? How do you know that you're in an aligned place? If you
I
compare that to where maybe you were at some point in the past.
think for me, the sign of alignment has always been ease.
Mm,
And when I say ease, I don't mean easy or like not working hard, but it's like there is the desire to wake up every day and be engaged in that way.
mm,
And so for me, as you said, Sheena, there has been a sort of windy road. I think there were probably many roads that could have led me to where I am today. But the experiences maybe would have been different along the way. As I mentioned earlier, I was exposed to acupuncture at quite a young age. My parents were really open to acupuncture. My dad was someone who always used to throw his back out. And, in the 80s, it was like, okay, take some muscle relaxants and stay in bed for 4 days. Like that was common practice. That was what was suggested. And eventually somebody said to him, like, why don't you try acupuncture? So he's like, okay, I'll try acupuncture. Like, I'll try anything really at that point, right? And I think I was like, I don't know, 7, 8. And we were in Vancouver, we lived in Vancouver, and my mom and I took him to this acupuncturist who had been referred to him, or he had been referred to. And it was like one of those old walk-up apartment buildings or office buildings, but the ones where you can see the windows like all the way up the fire escape and there's no elevator. And so he's like hobbling up the stairs and we're sitting in the car like and watching and he an hour later he came like bounding down the stairs.
mm.
And I remember just thinking like, huh, whoa, that's something, and just like it was like the seed had been planted of like, that's interesting. And I was really young at that time. And he, of course, was thrilled and so kept going for acupuncture. My mom started going for acupuncture. And I was a ballet dancer growing up and was involved in quite intensive training through my teenage years. And so I was also someone who got a lot of injuries. And so for me, like a lot of my friends were going for physio, and I said, like, I want to go to that acupuncturist. Like that guy, he was something. And I actually was afraid of needles. I wouldn't let him needle me, but he would do other types of like body work and acupressure and worked on me for a few sessions until he was like, maybe could we just try like a little something? And I was like, okay, fine. And of course, like I didn't really feel it. It was fine. It was much better than I had been anticipating. And so as my dance career went on, it was just like my go-to modality. And then I was in, and I always thought like I would be a dancer. And if I wasn't going to be a dancer, I thought, I don't know why I was making this connection, but I thought, oh, I'll be a physio. Because I was really fascinated with the body. So on top of like having all of these like acupuncture treatments, I also had, and I still have them on my bookshelf right here, like these anatomy books that I had when I was a teenager. And so I would like look through them and I would say like, okay, like this hurts on me, so it must be this. And I would like self-diagnose, and I would then try and like figure out what the rehabilitation plan would be. So I was always like, my brain was always really interested in that, and very like musculoskeletal, like very, injury based. And then when I was in a car accident, I was 19, and that really put an end to like my dance career. But it made it a very sort of logical shift for me of doing a degree in kinesiology. And so then I was in kinesiology, I was finishing up. I was like, wow, I know all this stuff. Like, I can make the best exercise plans for people. I can help people do all these things. And then when I actually started doing it and working with people, I realized like, it doesn't really matter how on point my exercise program is for them if they're not on board to do it. So then I started thinking about all of these pieces around like health behavior change and motivation, and how do we adhere to changes over time to support our health ultimately. And that led me to I did my master's in health behavior change and health psychology. So it was sort of like in my undergrad, I did the body. And then I was like, okay, this, to use the word alignment, like this is not an alignment because I'm not supporting people in the best way that I can. And so it just felt like, it's like you're kind of pushing the boulder up the hill. Like you're trying to help these people and pour everything in, but like ultimately there's a piece missing so that they're not improving. And so then I was like, okay, if I can just understand the psychology, then it'll be better. I can put it all together and it'll be better. So then I was like, okay, we'll get the mind on board. But then there was something there that I was like, this isn't like, I still don't feel like I'm supporting the whole person. I wasn't able to, I was like focused on adherence and motivation and the physical component, but there seemed to be this whole other thing that was missing. And so again, this felt like kind of the boulder up the hill, like this isn't in alignment. And then I started like really doing some reflection and thinking about like what has been the greatest support for me across my life and helpful, for me, not only physically, but also mental, emotionally. I don't know if at that point I would have used the word spiritual, but I would now say that. Like, what has been the most holistic support for me? And I always kept landing back on acupuncture. Mm-hmm. And so then I went to acupuncture school, thinking that I was going to support people mostly with orthopedic and musculoskeletal things. And then after a year or two in practice with that as my focus, I was like, no, this is like, I love supporting people with pain. And I think there's so much more that we can do as practitioners. And so it feels now, this spring will be 10 years in practice for me. And it feels now like I'm able to bridge the pieces together that I want to support people in a more fulsome way.
Mm-hmm. What a beautiful journey.
Yeah. and with such sweet awareness of going, okay, not quite right, and following that path, but always moving forward. So you knew the steps you were taking, like, yes, this feels aligned. There's ease for me in moving this way, but then in the practicality of doing the work and then learning everything from there. Hmm. And as someone who's been in your office, who didn't come in with like a physical injury, your skillfulness in tending to having that holistic conversation is really, really incredible. And I know a lot of what I would come in talking about was way more related to mental, emotional hurts that I was wanting to care for. And part of the magic for me is in your ability to receive however we arrive in your office and to make us feel good, but to really ask the right questions to kind of tease out what might be going on. And then with your wealth of background and knowledge, but really your intuition, certainly at ten years in, to know where to go to bring some alignment into those meridians, to get the energy moving where maybe it's stuck, just creating a little bit more flow there. And then you also have the beauty of the clinic that provides all of these different modalities of care. So someone may arrive for acupuncture, they may arrive for massage, or they may arrive to see Dr. Baxter, who's one of your naturopaths. But as a team, you're able to coordinate other types of care within that community. And to me, that creates such a sweet healthcare home base, if you will. And then you've got the work that you're continuing to do with Meg, supporting really communities of women who are finding alignment, creating alignment by learning how to work with their nervous system. It seems like all of these really beautiful parts of you and your journey are really woven into the work that you're doing. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's ever evolving. You know, I don't see this as the destination of like this is where, this is how, this is where I'm going to do everything this way forever and always. I mean, even from my story, I think it's quite obvious that I'm an ongoing learner and that I I am always looking at how can I best support people. But I think that there's something, and this speaks to that idea of Chinese medicine and the associations and interactions that we have within ourselves and our environment, of there's something that's really important about the space that you're in. And, you know, welcoming people into Glow, which is our clinic, feels really important to have those details taken care of. Like when we took over the space, it was already a clinic. We could have moved in and opened, but it felt so important to us that the environment was created to support people in a way that I always describe it as like that you come in and you feel like you can just exhale. Like, and that shows up in many different ways for people. But I do think that feeling of just like, okay, like I'm here for the next hour or whatever it might be. And like, this is my time. And I feel comfortable and I feel safe and I feel tended to and taken care of. And that's something that is so challenging for people to find in many aspects of their life, of that time when, especially as adults, that, you know, like that someone is just sort of putting their arm around you and saying like, come on, you're okay. And that is such a huge part of the experience and the ability to heal and to change, is to feel comfortable. Like, you know, I've certainly been in clinic environments where, you know, I'm like laying there and I'm shivering and, it's like kind of smells funny and the person at the front wasn't very nice when I came in, and like we've all had those experiences, and it changes the impact that that treatment will have for us. So I think it's important to remember, whether it's a clinic environment or how you set up your home, right? It's like, yeah, how is your environment impacting you?
It's beautiful. I wanted to shine a light on the part of your story that stood out to me the most, because I think we've all had our own journey with understanding Western medicine and Western philosophies and how we live our lives. And you walked us through this really beautiful story or journey of yours where it did start rooted in Western body beliefs. You were taking your kinesiology, then you moved into more of the mental space. And it just seemed like there's always been this pull for you to move more into an Eastern-based philosophy. But I really value and respect people who like hold true to both, because it makes me feel a little bit safer when I'm working with them, that they are rooted in both. They don't just have one, they're not standing firmly in just Eastern philosophy. They're not standing firmly in just Western, and that we understand that there is this very intrinsic link to all of it. And it's this beautiful human body that we've been gifted, and learning how to work with it is really individualized. It's not going to be one thing fits all. It's about being open and being adaptive and being able to pivot. And I really, really love that was sort of how everything got started for you, and you found your way to TCM and are working in more of an integrative space. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I really think that everything has its place. And this desire, especially I think right now, given the challenges within our healthcare system, there is this real desire to villainize Western medicine or underestimate the incredible, like I will use the word magic that it holds, right? I think that there is so much there, and it has its place. And the challenge is that Western medicine is not typically set up for longer term care, for supporting people who may not fit into a diagnosis. It's like you just feel like something's not right. And that's that like energetic layer that is kind of calling out at that point. And I believe firmly in lab testing. I believe firmly in understanding, like from a physiological perspective, what is going on in our bodies, and validating the experience that someone is having. That if you have labs that are showing up as all fine and you're still not feeling well, then we have to look at things from a different angle. We have to shine a light in a different way, because you're not fine. If you don't feel fine, and I don't like that word, but like if you don't feel like you're thriving, then you're not. Right? And so like if someone was having an anaphylactic reaction, would I say like just come for acupuncture? No, like I'm going to refer them to go to the ER and get the care that they need. And if someone is, managing long-term imbalances, then maybe a more integrative, energetic lens is something worthwhile trying, right?
I know one of the frustrating things that comes up when I've had conversation about alternative medicine and different practitioners is really the access to things. And I think that one of the greatest frustrations for myself is being grateful for Western medicine and being really frustrated that it's so much more easy to access Western medicine for so many people than it is to access alternative practitioners. And there seems to be a real mismatch between treating a symptom or a diagnosis in a typical Western, if you're able to find a clinic, you get in the door, they sort it out as quickly as they can, put a label on it, maybe write you a prescription and send you off. Whereas with an integrative health clinic and with some of these alternative practices, the whole person is seen. Like I have felt my whole person is acknowledged and invited to the conversation. And I dream of a day where we all have the choice to freely and easily access the care that is feeling most aligned or that we're most curious to try because our intuition is kind of calling us towards that. I wonder, Rach, if you might have some, I know you do, maybe even just one little tool that people who are watching could take away that I'm thinking about, like acupressure points on the hands or the wrists, or even the gentle sweeping, something that we could share with our watchers and listeners that would empower them to see if they can maybe create a little bit more of an energetic alignment within themselves, just using something that's so simple but requires a little bit of awareness and tuning in.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yes, for sure. And I will just say, in terms of when we talk about like that holistic approach that integrative practitioners are really trained with that lens, I invite people to just recognize that rather than like vilifying Western practitioners for not seeing things that way, that we all acknowledge that everyone has a different scope and a different training, and that we trust that medical training is moving more in that direction, and it really is. And we're seeing in other countries a lot more integration, like acupuncture is in the hospitals, acupuncture is being used for veteran care. There's a lot of ways that acupuncture is being utilized in more mainstream avenues, and it just takes time, right? But like no one has the scope of practice to do everything.
True.
We can't. Yeah. So I think that when we can acknowledge that where everything has its place, that will also create a lot more energetic flow within you. Right? Because when we talk about that idea, with that plum pit chi, that feeling of the kind of ball in your throat, like that is that desire for emotion to move. And a lot of times when we're angry, when we're frustrated, when we're anxious, the way that energy changes in our body is that it stagnates. So it just stops flowing. And so it's that idea of like, how can we release the things that we don't have much control over? And one of the best ways, and I'll show some acupressure points. One of the best ways that you can start to move that is with your breath. Right? So when we link it back to like nervous system regulation and our autonomic nervous system and our sympathetic, that like fight, flight, freeze, and our parasympathetic, the rest and digest, and all the things that those systems control, which are like your heart beating, your lungs breathing, where blood's moving in your body, your pupils dilating, like your digestion, immune system, all these things. You can't tell your digestive system like turn on now, or you can't tell your heart without moving in a different way, like speed up now, right? But the thing that you can control is your breath. And so your breath acts as that bridge between that activated sympathetic state and that more relaxed parasympathetic state, which is why just like taking a deep breath helps us to come back into a more relaxed state. It may not last for a long time, but it can help in that moment. And at the same point, thinking from an energetic perspective in our bodies, when we take a deep breath, or if you're feeling really frustrated or angry, you may notice that you do these like longer exhales or like sighs. It's always a sign of like feeling frustrated. And people will say like, oh, I just noticed like I'm sighing a lot. Or like I'll do it and my husband will be in the other room and he'll be like, that was a big sigh. I'm like, yes. Okay, noted. And because that's your way of resetting that energetic flow. So just thinking of like intentionally doing that, intentionally taking some slower, deeper breaths, some longer exhales. And that's going to help to just get things moving a little bit more. So that's one thing that's really helpful.
Such important wisdom. Thank you. We were talking with Shannon Blackburn in our last episode, actually, about mindfulness and some strategies around that. And Sabrina has been doing a little work in the land of breath lately herself.
Breathwork training is well underway.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, such an incredible tool.
It is beautiful.
So thinking about then like acupressure points that people can use. I mean, there's so many.
There are. I realized that was quite a big question. So some of the things that I'm thinking about that have been my favorite, the ears, actually, when I've been feeling really anxious. And in that really heightened state of arousal, pinching my earlobes, but there's a spot on the inside as well. And on the hand. And I forget exactly where you taught me, but I remember practicing and going, oh, this is really good. Like I could feel this exhale that we were talking about.
Can we learn that one, please? Please give
Yes,
us your wisdom.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the ear point, and like, this is hard to film. Everyone's ear is really different, but towards the kind of edge there, you'll feel that there's like almost a little triangle dip.
Yep.
Yeah. So right in the center of that triangle is a point. So the entire body can be mapped out on the ear, which is really cool. And so that point right in the center of that triangle there, it's in Mandarin, the name is Shenmen, which means spirit gate. So the idea is like very calming, grounding. It's really helpful if you're having difficulty sleeping, if you're feeling more anxious. There is a matched point that shares the same name on the heart channel, which is on the inside of your wrist. So if you find like on your pinky finger side of your wrist and you find the bone there, and then you just let your finger sort of fall in from the bone, you'll feel like there's a little divot there.
Yep.
So that is that same point. So Shenmen, but heart Shenmen.
And you're not pushing hard. Yes, you're just like a gentle pressure.
Yeah, moderate pressure. Like it shouldn't feel painful on the finger that you're using to press or where you're pressing. Some points can feel more tender for sure. And I recommend when you are doing acupressure on yourself, like if you can hold it for about 30 to 60 seconds. Meridians are bilateral, so they're on both sides, right and left. So if you have time to do both, that's great.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Should we be doing both sides?
Yeah, so the only meridians that are not bilateral are the ones that run right up the midline.
Center.
In the front.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and there's one that goes actually around the center, which is the only one that goes around, but those are the only ones that are not bilateral.
Ooh, I'm so excited about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one's really nice. Thinking about a very commonly used, I'll show you two more, and a very commonly used point, which I think is the one you're speaking to, Sheena, is so if you kind of squeeze together your thumb and index finger, you'll see that there's like this mound here.
Mhm.
And the
Okay.
point is right at the top of that mound. Yeah. And then you can like relax. And I like to kind of hold it like this. I find that's just an easier grip. And so this is a point, it's probably the most commonly used point in all of acupressure and acupuncture points. It's actually on the large intestine channel, but doesn't have a lot to do with the large intestine. It's really well known for headaches.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so part of that is because the large intestine channel runs from the index finger down sort of through that point up, and then comes up the shoulder, up the neck, and into the head, and sort of spreads out into the head that way. So that idea of like affecting one end of the, or, you know, activating, engaging one end of the channel, but having it impact the other end of the channel, that's quite common in acupuncture. So headaches would be one, stress, anxiety can be helpful. Pain, it's a really commonly used point for pain. So general pain. And it's paired actually. So there's a combination of points in acupuncture called the four gates that are really about that movement of energy. So if you're feeling like things are kind of blocked or stagnated, it's that point on both hands, so right and left. And then on your foot, there is basically in the exact same spot, between your big toe and your second toe, right before sort of the arch of the foot starts to come up, there's another point right there. And that's on the liver channel. Liver is all about the smooth movement of energy in the body. So right, left on your feet, right, left on your hands makes the four gates, which is about that general movement.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that that's the channel there and that's the liver line, is there a connection with liver imbalances and bunions?
Good question.
Yeah.
So we have to pull up a meridian map so I can explain it well, other than showing on my hand.
Yeah, because it's right there between the first and second metatarsal, which is the challenge with where you grow bunions.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's another channel right there. So if this is your foot, this is your big toe, just work with me here. The outside, so the side of your toenail, your big toenail that is towards your pinky toe.
Yep.
Yeah. That is the first point on the liver channel.
Okay.
And so that comes up through that point and through the inside of the leg. The channel that starts on the outside, or sorry, the inside of the big toenail.
Yep.
And comes right through the bunion is the spleen channel.
Oh.
So the spleen channel in Chinese medicine is really related to when the spleen is related to the earth element. It's a lot around digestion, energy, blood formation. So the idea that the spleen and the stomach are paired, the stomach kind of breaks down food, and then the spleen is how that food gets transformed into energy.
Right.
A lot of people who are worrying, overthinking, overstudying, having digestive issues, maybe because they're eating a lot of like cool, damp foods that are more like yogurt and cottage cheese and salads and those types of foods, like it weakens that spleen chi, that digestive fire. And so what it means is that rather than that being transformative into energy, that sits and it creates what's known as dampness, which is like feeling of heaviness in the body. And damp stagnation combined with stagnation that can often be when there's a lot of stagnation, it can create heat, which is inflammation.
Yeah.
And that is what bunion is,
Okay.
right on the spleen channel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Fascinating. It really is.
It is. It's so much information to consume. I'm like, as I look at this, I have a little chart about the different lines and what the ailments are associated with, because I'm taking like a very basic meridians course. And my brain, every time I go back to it, my brain just wants to like go more and deeper and be like, okay, now I want to know about all the emotions connected to the things. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
There's so much and it's so exciting. And there's a great book.
Ooh, I love book recommendations. I need to find the other one we got from Nicole the other day too. I was looking for it in my notes.
Yeah, this is called The Web That Has No Weaver.
Ooh, I got chills.
Yeah, the subtitle is Understanding Chinese Medicine. So I mean, like, it's not a textbook, but like it's thick, but it does in using language that is, I think, accessible to non-TCM trained people.
Yeah.
It really goes through all those things that you were just saying of like,
Very cool.
how is everything connected? What is yin? What is yang? We haven't even talked about that. Yin and yang theory, 5-element theory, chi, meridian theory, all of that. Organ theory, it's all in there. Great book.
I think you're going to have to come back.
I'd love to.
Oh, okay. Gonna keep daydreaming of the cool incarnation of the One Step Ahead series. I have loved this conversation so much and really appreciated. I know that there are going to be people who now have an idea of what acupuncture is, but even just a curiosity around the energy in the body and the meridians and how things flow or not. So good. We do have one tradition in OSA. If we have a few more minutes together, appreciating we are a little bit past time. Sabrina,
Yes.
would you please share what's on your whiteboard today?
It's interesting because I wrote it this morning and I was thinking about it midway through our conversation. It's like, it is related and it's maybe not as obvious, but I think as I've learned to get to know you in this very brief period, I can see how it really does land. So my quote of the day is, your only job in this world is to shine your light fucking brightly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. My word for 2024 was light.
Oh, I also got chills. Good. I love this.
Yeah.
I am so
Always
excited for
aligned.
the two of you to now know each other, because of course there's
Yeah.
other cool ways of connecting and staying in touch. Definitely kindred spirits. Yeah. I am really excited as well, Rach, to for all of us as our journeys continue to evolve and we, move on to the next bend in the road and the next version of ourselves. You've just got such a beautiful, inquisitive, scientific brain, and we have appreciation for those. I mean, for all the beautiful brains, but as somebody who doesn't have that science and math brain, I love it so much. And I've really appreciated, hearing a bit more about your story. And thank you for coming in to share it with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I just love being able to talk about all of these things and being in such an like open arms of people who get it. I love it. It's so exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And even if we don't always get it, we're open to the magic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The magic.
Thank you both so much. Thank you to those of you who have been listening. If you are enjoying and you haven't yet pressed subscribe, please do that. And feel free to leave a comment, hit the like button. We will be back for a couple more episodes before the winter season winds down. We look forward to connecting with all of you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.